Hey everybody, what is going on? Trey Griggs here with Beta Consulting Group. It is Finish Strong Friday, everybody. So whatever you're doing today, make sure you give it your max effort. Finish strong. That steak's going to taste a lot nicer tonight, or pizza, whatever you're having. It's going to lead you into the weekend feeling great about yourself. And while you got a little extra time, check us out over at betaconsultinggroup.com. See how we're helping companies with their branding, their messaging, their content creation, social media, creating podcasts, whatever it is that you need to tell your story. We're here to help you out with that. So check us out, fill out a form. We'd be excited to work with you, or just hook up with me on LinkedIn. Just DM me. That'd be great. We've got a phenomenal show today, but before we get to that, a shout out to my sponsor, TAFS. They're the good guys in freight factoring, and they've got awesome swag. Look at this. I love it. And so if you're a carrier, if you're an owner operator, an asset-based company, make sure you check these guys out. They're going to help you with your cash flow and all the discounts that you might need for tires and fuel and small business loans, just all those kind of things that are going to help you stay on the road and thrive and make sure that you're good in any market, especially as there's volatility out there right now. If you would just click on the link that's going to be in the comments today, Morgan's going to post that comment. Click on that link that takes you right to my landing page with TAFS so they know that I sent you there. Or you can also check them out at tafs.com and be sure to tell them that Trey sent you when you talk to them. Sign up with them. They're going to help you out. They are the good guys looking to educate their carriers. Love them. Also, make sure you follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. Subscribe to the channel so you see us every time that we go live and have great guests like our guest today. We've had a phenomenal week of guests this week. It's been a fun week. We were in Orlando on Monday and Tuesday at TMSA with Chris Jolly on Monday, Holly Laboda on Tuesday with a walking podcast. That was a lot of fun. Wednesday, we talked to Chris Torrance. He is the epitome of addiction to startups. And so it was a great chat on Wednesday. My good friend Rich Hankins, yesterday we talked about his journey through entrepreneurship as a data engineer. Building some really cool technology at My Truck and Tech. And today, my good friend Dan McCann is going to be on shortly. We're going to talk about his product, SimTrain, here in just a moment. But also, it's Friday, which means that in about an hour and a half at noon Central, we're going to have episode 110 of The Word on the Street, powered by Beta Consulting Group. We're going to have Grace Sharkey of Freightways and Road Dog Trucking as our special guest today. So make sure you join us at that time. We've got a couple of polls that are out there about concerts and a couple of other fun things. So again, that's going to be from noon Central to 1 Central Time today, episode 110 of The Word on the Street. And last reminder, everybody, because it's Friday, enjoy the weekend. But Monday morning, 6 a.m., get up with us with Hayden Allred and myself for episode 11 of Iron Minds. We're going to be working out. We're going to be talking about emotional intelligence and the value of that when you're in difficult circumstances, when you're in challenging situations. So going to get your mind right, get you ready for the week. It's going to be a phenomenal show on Monday morning at 6 a.m. And thank you so much for following along, for watching, for being a part of what we're doing here at Beta Consulting Group. Okay, let's go ahead and get our guest in today. This guy is phenomenal. He saw a problem with onboarding and training, which exists all over the place. You know, one of the main reasons that people don't make it at a company in the first 6 months is poor onboarding and poor training, and he's working to resolve that. Everybody, please get up for my good friend from SimTrain, the founder and CEO, Dan McCann. Dan, what's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Trey, how you doing?
It's
Trey,
good to
it's
see you,
Friday.
man.
It's Friday, so I'm in the home office today. It looks like you might be in a little bit slightly better scenario.
I'm in the home office as well. That's right. This is where I belong. I got a charity golf tournament this afternoon. So as soon as Word on the Street is over, I'll be hitting the links with some friends of mine here in St. Louis. Bear Creek. Shout out, by the way, to my friends here at Bear Creek Golf Club in Winsfield, Missouri, and their head pro Kirk. Really appreciate them letting me do this from here. So it's great to be here, and of course, the setting just can't get much better.
Awesome. Tell Grace Sharkey Dan McCann says hello when
I will. Have you been on her show on Road Dog Trucking? Have you been on that? Been on that?
Yeah, I've been on there.
Good.
Awesome.
Excellent. Yeah, no, she's great. We're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, she's a big training person. She's got a background like me and you in training, education, coaching, those sorts of things. So absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So tell everybody just a little bit who may not know who you are and about SimTrain, kind of 30 to 60-second rundown of who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, so Dan McCann, I'm the founder of SimTrain, and we built an application that helps employees learn how to perform their job in a simulated environment by actually running through real life job scenarios, getting practice, getting repetition and feedback on how well they're performing directly from the AI so they can build confidence and develop skills. That's what SimTrain does.
Yeah, no, I love that because as we've talked about before offline, like onboarding and training is one of the most critical aspects that a company can have. And yet a lot of them struggle with that because I just don't think they've thought through not only the process of training, but also the repercussions of poor training. And so, the modus operandi seems to be you bring somebody in, you sit them next to somebody and hope that they pick it up by osmosis or just, by
Right.
being a quick learner. And then you throw them into the deep end and hope that they can swim. And a lot of times that's a problem. And when you think about training, most companies don't invest a month, 2 months into training their teams and going back and do retrains and things like that. The great thing about SimTrain is that, in my opinion, it's the scalability, because one sales leader or one trainer can work with one person really effectively. But with SimTrain, you're able to work with a lot of people, especially if you're in a high growth company. If you're bringing on 20 people at a time, 30 people at a time, the value of SimTrain just goes way up. Before you talk about that, yes, Beth Horton, I will definitely say hi to your parents on hole 13 today. So thanks for watching the show today. So Dan, when it comes to SimTrain, like what led you to start that, and what are some of the wins that you're seeing among some of your clients?
Yeah. So Trey, before SimTrain, I ran another startup that I founded. We were doing outbound biz dev, sales prospecting for customers, and we were doing C-level type of meetings. So it was really important that we had really well-trained folks. And what we found out was we were giving them all the knowledge. It's like, hey, do what I do and you'll be great. It's like, and they had the data, they had the knowledge, but they're like, well, how? How do I do what you do? I need to know that. And they needed that sort of those exercises, Trey, to perfect that. And even when they were working with their coaches, like say they were great coaches and you would tell me something, and then maybe David would tell me the same thing, but it sounded different. And I left confused and I was off to my own recourse to kind of figure it out. So we built SimTrain to fix that so I could get the constant and consistent repetition as well as feedback. So I knew exactly what to do. So I knew I could do the job really well. And I did it in the simulated environment. So it was no different. As a matter of fact, a lot of clients make it harder in SimTrain than it's going to be on the floor. So it's easier once you get in role.
Yeah, I mean those new employees, they need reps, they need practice. It's like anything else, practice makes improvement, and the more practice that they get, the more that they can improve. And the other thing too is that I'm a former school teacher, and we kind of come from the same background, teaching, education, coaching, those types of things. Every learner, learns slightly differently. And
Yep.
so, putting them through a system where they can at least practice, and then you can evaluate what words did they miss, or what extra words did they say, what was their tone like. Every student, basically every new employee, is going to have a slightly different challenge when it comes to picking up a new process or those types of things. And SimTrain allows you to customize that. So even though you're creating a sim that's pretty standardized, the results are what's really important. When you're evaluating that, you can see where they nailed it, where they struggled, and you can focus on those areas of deficiency much more efficiently. And I love that about the product.
Yeah. And John just mentioned, proper onboarding is critical,
Oh,
right? And, you know,
100%, John.
yeah, absolutely. And what you're talking about is, you have audio learners, you have visual, you have tactile, but at the end of the day, you're going to go out and shoot par today, Trey, and you didn't learn how to go chase pins, in a lecture hall. I promise you didn't sit in a seminar to learn how to get the ball off the tee into the middle of the fairway. It just doesn't happen. You got to go out and do it. And you have to learn by doing and being out there producing, right? And that's
Yeah.
the way people learn.
100%. And that's not only true of just training for skills, but I think it's also true of leadership. We've noticed that
Yeah.
a lot of companies have basically eliminated leadership development, leadership training within their companies. And we've seen a lot of struggle in terms of people growing into new positions and becoming leaders. How does SimTrain impact not only skills, but maybe also like attacking things like leadership or anything else? Talk about what SimTrain is capable of doing.
Yeah, you think about job readiness when you hire me in a brokerage role or any role, right? And you're going to give me preparedness for that role by running through scenarios we're going to face. It's the same thing when you advance me into leadership positions. Oftentimes it's like, hey, Dan McCann's a top performer. Let's advance him to the next level so we don't lose him. But is he going to be a good leader? Is he going to connect with people effectively? We know he's a good, individual contributor. Maybe there's ways we can motivate him to stay in that role versus if he's not ready. So you can run through simulations that prepare you for the types of conversations you have to have with your employees that report to you, your peers, different types of discussions you're going to have as a leader. So not only do Trey, better not, get Dan in the next role, but I actually get exposure to that type of position. And I can come to you and say, hey, Trey, I'm not sure that stuff I just ran through is really right for me. I wouldn't mind staying over here. Or I killed it. And it's like, yeah, I can't wait to get there. And we know I'm going to do well.
Yeah, think about how many leaders are put into a position of leadership without having practiced those tough conversations.
Right.
When somebody's not performing well, or when you have to let somebody go, or when you're, maybe making a change or a pivot in the company. As you know, you work with a lot of startups, and you're a startup kind of fanatic yourself. When you have to make those pivots, those are tough conversations sometimes, and it's really challenging. And Chris, yes, I am at Bear Creek today, so I'm very excited about that. So Chris is local as well; he knows what's up. We're gonna have a great day today. But yeah, having those conversations and just giving reps just to practice some of those challenging conversations. One of my favorite movie clips of all time is from Moneyball. You probably know Moneyball with Brad Pitt, and he's trying to teach him how to tell a player that they've been traded, and they role played together. And then once they role played, then he went in and he did it and he got it right. And the same thing is true with SimTrain. It's just that sometimes when you're growing, especially a fast growth company, high growth company, or a startup, you just don't have enough time to sit down and do it yourself. And having SimTrain as a partner is just a huge benefit to get those conversations done, to get that role playing done, and to make sure that they have those reps to continue to improve.
Heck yeah. Think about it this way, Trey, and I'll work backwards, right? From the leadership development. The worst thing that happens is once you promote someone to the next job and then find out they're not ready for that. First off, they were a great contributor in their prior job. Now you're struggled, and that difficult conversation often leads to needing to make a change or an adjustment or a super high-end type of training program to get them ready for that next role. And oftentimes it leads to some attrition that it's like the worst type of attrition, right? You don't mind losing your top 10% sometimes or 20, but when you're losing your top 20% and it's because of you, it's like, that's a really tough position to be in. And just coming into any role, we mentioned onboarding, right? And training through, learning by doing, but think about when I'm in role, right? And I have things going a certain way. I have actual exercises in SimTrain that are pointed directly to the type of skills I need to improve. I might be doing 80% of everything right, but my close rate's really low, or I might not be having the right sort of empathy with customers, right? And I need to work through those things. And by having simulations, you can actually give me the actual exercises to do that. I know I can get better. So, but in both cases, it definitely helps out, not just having difficult conversations, but really making an impact to help advance the business and grow it.
100%. We talked about onboarding. That's really critical. But as you mentioned, sometimes when you're just in the job, you develop some bad habits over time. You just maybe start using a word that is causing a bad outcome and you don't even realize it sometimes. And I think of it in the terms of sports. Like when you think of a basketball team, they play games throughout the season, but in between the games, they're practicing skills to stay sharp, to stay fresh. And I think also when it comes to business in general, when somebody's in a job, a lot of times we don't offer that ongoing training. We don't encourage continued skill development, especially if they're hitting their numbers. A lot of times we're like, well, hey, they're doing a great job, but we're not actually helping them grow and refine those skills. We would never do that in sports. And yet it seems like in business, that's exactly what we do. So having SimTrain, having a tool where people can go through exercises on a regular basis and refine those skills, make sure that if they have any bad habits, they're eliminating those, is absolutely critical for high performance.
So Trey, I play old man baseball still, right? And
do you really? Nice.
I played in college, but look.
Okay, what position do you play? Are you pitching? Are you catching?
Yeah, they moved me to first base. I no longer an athlete, but I could still hit. So it's like put them on first. And any first baseman out there, don't get offended.
No offense. No offense.
Right. But look, I mean, even on game day, we're going to go take some batting practice. I'm going to hit off the tee. I'm going to get loose, but I'm going to get that muscle memory going. I love when I go to a client and I see new application and new uses for SimTrain. Like, I walked in a couple months ago to one of our clients and someone was running Sims in the morning. I said, oh, what exercises are you doing? Like, oh, I just do this a couple days a week just to get job ready and get the juices going. It's just like kind of readiness for the day.
Warm up. Wow. Right.
It was awesome. I'm like, and she's like, oh yeah, all the folks on my team do this. Like they love getting in here, getting prepped. It's like, it was literally like batting practice. And it was an application. Unfortunately, we didn't really think of that. Like, oh man, that's a really great use case for sim training.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I'm gonna go hit some golf balls here in a little bit and warm up a little bit. It's the same thing. Like I'm working on a few things, making sure that I'm hitting the ball the way that I want to before I go out and play. And it's the same thing in business. I love that example of kind of a warm up, a session in the morning, just to jump on there, run through a couple sims, just make
Yeah.
sure that you're feeling good, getting ready, getting the voice ready and what you want to say and getting all that. Those are great use cases for that, which is awesome. And that's the cool thing too about starting a new company and building a product. You get the customers using it, and they usually figure out better things for the product than you do. And how do you think about
Absolutely.
that whenever you're developing technology and you're working with clients? What's the process there of taking that feedback and then acting on it?
Yeah, well, so a couple things. One is design thinking is a critical part of what we do, and it's all about putting something out in front of a customer, letting them use it, play with it, and let you know how it
Break it a little
works and
bit.
give you
Yeah.
feedback, right?
Yeah.
And then being able to take that feedback and solve for the problem, right? And what they're telling you is, even SimTrain in the beginning, right? What was it? I had a problem. I couldn't develop people fast enough or well enough to keep up with growth of the business. I had to fix that. How was I going to fix it? I didn't know. I tried everything and nothing was working. So eventually we found this technology that gave people that repetition. It's like, okay, that works. Got super passionate about it and said, I'm going to go chase this dream now. And took an exit from that company, right? But so it's that sort of thing, solving a problem and working with customers and prospects to determine A, does it solve it? Is there value here? And then B, how can we make it better, like for you, and listen to that and integrate that into your product development strategy.
Yeah, it's so critical to listen to customers and figure out what they want, much more than what we think they want. Because a lot of times, what we think they want, they either might not want, or they want something a little bit more than that, or maybe even something totally different. And I love that you're willing to hear that feedback and make some adjustments, which is kind of startup life, right? I mean, that's kind of the way you got to work with a startup and pivot. This is not your first startup, and in this one here, you've really done a good job of creating partnerships. What's the value of finding really good partnerships in a startup, especially as you're getting going?
Yeah, I'll take that twofold, right? Number one is our product team. They'll meet with me and say, "Hey, Dan, what do you think?" And I'll say, "Hey, I have tons of ideas, but if you listen to me, you're in trouble, right? And the company's in trouble because it's our customers that we need to listen to." And if you think about it, Trey, from that same perspective with these partnerships, IP, intelligence, knowledge. Like I have customers who have started multiple brokerages, right? And they've started multiple carriers and assets and they know it from scratch. They've built it. They've been through all the challenges. They've done this over years and years. And because we're working with them and talking to them, they don't mind sharing that IP and that intelligence with SimTrain. And so we can learn from them and build that into the product to make it better for every transportation company, right? Whether it's brokerage or carrier, or whoever's going to be using SimTrain, it's constantly getting better. And case in point, Lean Solutions, right? So they're one of our
Yeah.
partners. And what they're doing is they said, "Hey, Dan, we have access to carrier sales content. We have, customer sales, track and trace. We have all this different content. Can we just load it into SimTrain so all the brokerages, if they sign on, can have access to that library?" It's like, Trey, I couldn't do that myself or hire the right people in a million years to create that quality and value of a content library that any transportation company can come in, look at that library and have access to that information. I mean, it literally transforms the future of our business. It's that important, those partnerships.
Yeah, and partnering with somebody like Lean that has over 500 customers in transportation, working with over 7,000 employees in those roles, like you talked about carrier sales and whatnot, that's a great kind of breeding ground for new ideas and creating, these libraries, like you said, just to enhance the product. So I think a lot of times startups, they feel like they've got to go out on their own, like they got to figure it all out on their own. And you've been
Yeah.
around long enough to know that, hey, partnerships is a way to really, speed things up. There's that old adage that, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go together. And you've done a good job of creating those partnerships to go together. What are some other things that you've learned in your career in startups that's really helped you here with SimTrain?
Yeah. So Trey, I'll tell you, tied to those partnerships and those sorts of things, a lot of founders and a lot of early stage employees, they like to keep their IP secret. They like to hold on to it. I don't want people finding out and then they'll steal my ideas, right? And as the CEO and leader of my company, it's hard enough to get my people excited about doing this and taking these ideas to the next level every day. And it's what I prefer to be like an open source, right? Open book, open source. Tell people, here's what we're doing. Here's how we do it, right? They're going to learn from us and we're going to learn from them. And we don't solve every single issue. As a matter of fact, it's not even on our roadmap to solve every single issue. But as you indicated before, I can learn from those customers by hearing what they're saying and doing, and really that designs and develops the roadmap. I think that's critical, being open, sharing, and not being afraid of somebody coming in and like stealing all my ideas and things. Like, don't worry about that. You know, those things will take care of themselves. Is the more you're open, the more you'll bring good people in, like yourself, Trey. I mean, we met, I think you're a great guy and you're awesome to work with. And, but we met through a business, scenario and, just shared ideas, shared concepts. And just like, I've learned a ton from you already.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's really nice of you to say that. And I remember when I was a teacher, they used to always tell us to beg, borrow, and steal everything because there's nothing new under the sun, right? But some teachers do things really well in one area, others maybe knock it out of the park in another area. And the more that we share ideas, it's not that I'm going to take somebody's spot as a teacher, but we're all going to be better as a result. And if another company does come in and create a training process as well, that actually just raises the awareness in the industry, and there's enough pie to go around. That's the thing I think that really smart business leaders know, is that there's enough pie to go around. Business is not a finite game. There's no real rules. There's no definition of who's winning. You have to run your own race and not be afraid just to be
Right.
open about what you're doing. I love that about what you're doing.
Yeah. No, and even that is difficult, right? Because you set your plans, you execute towards your plans, and then you're always thinking like, hey, I got to be adjusting my plans and thinking about what's next on our horizon, even before you've completed the execution of the strategy that you're mid-cycle in. And oftentimes it leads to better things, right? Different channels, different markets open, and there's a value of just having your shingle out front and being open for business. Let's put it that way, right? Yeah. And just being there brings in a lot of additional value, whether customers or revenue or ideas or different additive directions. And then you got to weigh, do I have the resources to do that, or do I need to delay that for later on? Absolutely.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, people want to work with businesses that they have a great product and they have great people running that product. And when you hit those two things, you don't need to worry about somebody stealing your product or stealing your clients, because you're providing a great service and you're providing, great leadership and a relationship. And I think that's what people want. They want to do business with people they like, who can help them out. And as long as you're hitting those two things, there's nothing to be afraid of. And so again, I love that about what you guys are doing and bringing awareness to training, which has just really fallen off the table in many businesses, especially in transportation, and just making it a lot easier, to create efficiency around that. I know, just go back to the lean example real quick, just to give an example on that. I know there's a gentleman down there who runs their carrier sales department, and he does all the training himself. And he's trying to do 50 one-on-one, calls
Right.
with the team to give them reps and to give them some opportunities. And now with SimTrain, they can do it without him, and he can just go back and find out those areas of deficiency. And his time is much more efficiently used now. He's much happier as a manager, as a leader. So there's a lot of side benefits that come to using technology in this, especially in this way, to make your life better. And that's pretty cool. What are some other benefits you're seeing from clients out there?
I was going to say, I'll take two, right? I'll stick with Isaac, for a second. And there's some other folks in carrier sales that, because he's saving so much time, and he used to do those one-on-ones and now he's doing 1-on-50s and they're running them themselves, he's coming up with all these other ideas and things he can do for these folks to get them better and work with them to make improvements in their process. Even challenging them with sims that aren't good, so they can pick up like, hey, this doesn't seem right. You know what? You're right. You got it. Right. And so there's so many different ideas that he's able to generate now, because he's not doing those rote tasks that he's automated through SimTrain. One that we're really proud of is NTG was one of our first customers in the transportation space. And they're like the gold standard, right, as far as I'm concerned. And they invited me in. They said, come on in. We're not sure we're going to do this sim training thing, but just come see what we do. And it was like really impressive, right? There was like 200 folks. They rented out a hotel, and they had all their managers there, and they were all passionate about learning, training, teaching. It was a really cool thing to watch. And they did these roundtables, right? And I said to Rainbow Harris, who was running the whole thing, I said, I love it. I said, but think about each roundtable. Each person over the course of an hour is only getting 2.5 minutes of exercises, because there's 10 other folks at the table. With SimTrain, they could get 45 minutes of exercises. So we're not saying remove the roundtables, because they're building culture and their teams together and people are getting to know each other, but augment those with simulations. Yeah. So every hour in SimTrain, you get 45 minutes versus 2.5 minutes, right? I'm not a genius, but the math is like 20x the
Sounds
ROI.
a little better. That's
Yeah,
right.
so and it's cheaper too. So compare the cost of SimTrain to the humans.
Yeah, and to go back to the example with Isaac, when you give, especially creative people, when you give people margin to think, when you give them space to have time to actually think, and not just do, they come up with really great stuff. I think that Google started this and did a great job with this, where they gave every employee 20% of their week to do whatever they wanted, work
Yep.
related or not, and they saw the creativity just boost tremendously in new ideas and new products. And again, it comes that way as well. When you give your team, especially your leaders, margin to think, they come up with a lot of times much better stuff than you would come up with on your own. And that's another side benefit of SimTrain.
Yeah. Hey, what's really cool is with SimTrain, you can audit the activities people do. So you know whether they're practicing or not, right? So when I tell you, hey, Trey, look, you just have to work on putting and you're going to drop 3 strokes, right? I can actually see not only that you're doing the putting at practice, but what type of practice you're doing, how well you're doing, and if you're getting better. But the key is, I know for a fact you want to get better at golf, right? And you're going to make the effort, and genuinely you're just looking. And don't take golf lessons from me, by the way. And so I'm not going to tell you what to do in those putting practices. But at the end of the day, as long as I know, like no employee wants to do bad. That's the key. And it's like they're dying for stuff like these exercises. They just want it. And some companies don't have it. They're like, oh, go do this or do better in that. And they say, how? And they say, well, just watch Trey. He's doing a better job. Just watch him. It's like, it doesn't work that way. Observation's good. Don't get me wrong. But actually getting in the driver's seat is way better, because now I have the exercises and I'm doing it, right?
It's a small portion of, it's an important part, but it's a small part of the overall training process, just to observe. At some point, you got to jump in and see how it goes and get it done. John says the biggest challenge that they have where he works is folks getting to know the company, especially when they come from outside the chemical industry. And again, that's another use for it, is just giving people the opportunity to learn how to use technology. That's the other thing about SimTrain. How do I use the CRM? How do I use the company portal to find different information, like human resources documents and stuff like that? There's so many applications, not just role playing, but actually in terms of being able to practice those types of things as well when somebody's new to the company. There's a ton of ways to use SimTrain. Before I forget though, Dan, how can everybody learn more about SimTrain and connect with you?
Yeah, so the simtrain.com is real easy, and SimTrain's SYMTRAIN, but we bought SI too, just in case. You can contact me directly. I've had a few folks hit me up recently on LinkedIn, just asking questions. And Dan McCann on LinkedIn, it's easy to remember because it rhymes. And it's dan.mccann@simtrain.com. So I'd love to hear from folks, questions like that. If you want to talk a little bit about it and how it might work. That's my passion. I love doing this thing, right? Which is really a fun way to get up in the morning and go to work. So really eager to talk to anyone who wants to, figure out if sim training might be good for their company.
And I'll just give you a shout out. You got a phenomenal team. I've enjoyed working with everybody at your organization, especially Melanie. She's a former teacher. We got a lot in common. She's great. But you got a phenomenal team as well. And speaking of passion, I see the old Georgia Bulldogs logo there on your shirt.
Yeah.
All right. Did you go to Georgia, or are you just a fan?
2 boys. I had 2 boys graduate from there. So one just got his master's this year in 4 years. He's a smart kid. And then his older brother
got his undergrad and master's in 4 years. Got both
all together at the same time. They have
that's good on the wallet.
Yeah, you got to be smart and motivated. He's got both of those assets, and his brother graduated there as well. So we're definitely fans of Georgia. It was nice to grab a national championship this year. My oldest son was like dying for one of those. So it was like really important to him. So check that box for him.
Yeah. Well, you're well invested in the school. They should give you a couple polos for sending a couple kids there. And it's always neat to see those battles between Georgia and Alabama. Just exceptional schools with great programs and a lot of fun to root for. So hopefully you guys have a good season this year, which would be great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. We're at 30 minutes. It goes so fast. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you'll come back and see us again soon.
Trey, I had an awesome time. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. And everybody else out there, thanks for watching the show. Make sure you come back on Monday for my interview with Jason Rabine. He's the founder and CEO of Max Freight Lines. He's an entrepreneur, only been going 2 or 3 months. So it's going to be great to talk to him about his journey and what he's doing. And again, don't forget to come back at noon today for the Word on the Street, episode 110 with Grace Sharkey. We're going to have a great time. Everybody have a fabulous weekend. Finish strong Friday. We'll see you guys later on.